Let's record. Cool. So that should start recording. So thanks again, everyone, for joining. Good to see you. We've got a few people from different parts of the world, different parts of Asia. Um, so we have Mo here today, who's joining us from Insured Nomads. Before we just get into Mo's background and everything like that, I just wanted to add a little note from a doer circle point of view as well, because this is a topic which has a lot of complexity. It can be quite an emotional topic. It can be quite a personal topic because we're dealing with health and well-being and things like that. But it's also one of the key reasons that Doers Circle exists. So our founder, Helle, who's actually with us on the call today as well, had challenges coming from a corporate world in the past and then going into an entrepreneurial path and then not being able to get access to health insurance, despite the fact that she was super fit and active and had her policy for well over 10 years. So she was a loyal customer to this insurance company. And then all of a sudden they turned around and said to her, we can't insure you anymore because you're not part of this large company. And then after a bit of back and forth conversations, they finally came back with a quote which was 4 or 5 times higher than what it was in the corporate world. And that kind of sparked an idea of saying, look, there are other entrepreneurs, there are other freelancers and small business owners that have these same challenges. Is there a way that we as a, can we build a community? Can we find a way to work with service providers to provide, this very vital and very, in a way, it's core basic security, right? Having that peace of mind, that well-being, from an insurance point of view. So that's actually one of the big reasons why Do a Circle exists. It's why it's an important topic for us. It's why we're also really excited to talk about Insured Nomads as a partner, because I think we're really enjoying working with them, coming up with exciting new ways to be able to support our members with that health coverage, in a way that actually is flexible, is portable, but gives good coverage as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add that little intro because this is an important topic. The subject of the day is demystifying or simplifying insurance. We're going to try and avoid jargon today. I think if there's any particular jargon, I might interrupt and try to ask you to explain it differently. I mean, there will naturally be some, I guess, in that sense. But as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, we also want it to be interactive with questions. So we're going to have, rather than like a 20-page presentation, we're going to have a little bit more of an open conversation. So please do fire your questions in as you have them, or ahead of time if you want as well. And we want to answer as many as we can. So yeah, thanks everybody, and thanks in particular to Mo for joining us. If you want to just tell us a bit more about yourself.
So my name's Mo Buglow. I'm the regional director for EMEA, Asia, Africa for Insured Nomads. I was born in the UK, moved to Asia in 2001, and I've worked in the insurance industry for 20 years. So I've seen the good and the bad and the ugly over the years, and insurance is something that I'm very passionate about. I see a real need for change in the industry. And that goes from in terms of the way that people can buy insurance, the way that people use insurance, and the way that companies sell insurance. So one of the things that attracted me to what Do a Circle we're trying to build, since COVID, we've had a huge uptick in people that are now working as freelancers, setting up their own business overseas. And I think that category of client or member, if you like, are kind of being left behind by the insurance industries. It's either you go to one insurer and you get a quote, or, why not set up a product as a community? So that's how we started the discussion with Doers Circle. Something that Hella and both Jamie were passionate about, was, as Jamie mentioned earlier, being in corporate life is great because you have a great insurance plan. It's cheap because the company are paying it. But as soon as you leave that company, that insurance is gone. So what we've done together with Do a Circle, we've made sure that we do have group leaver alternatives for members that decide that they're no longer going to need coverage through Do a Circle's plans. and they're moving to the USA, for example, and therefore they need alternative or higher levels of cover. So I think we've ticked the boxes. In terms of Insured Nomads, we're a tech-first company. As I mentioned, we're passionate about the insurance industry. We see a real need for change. The products that we build are tech first. So just to give you an example, we issue digital MasterCards to all of our clients so that they can pay for claims in real time. And what that means to you as a policyholder is that you can go to any hospital anywhere in the world as long as you're covered in that country, and you can pay for the bill in real time using our money rather than your own money, and then submitting a claim for which then needs to be reimbursed. In addition to this, we do 24/7 crisis response. So we're a firm believer in prevention is better than cure. And what we mean by that is you could be in a country where, there's political unrest, you're unaware, or war breaks out, you're unaware. But through our app, we constantly send push notifications based on your GPS-enabled app that we give you, so that you're constantly aware of the potential risks in the country that you're in. Now, I know several of you are in Singapore, and there's unlikely to have anything of substantial concern, but in certain other countries, it's something that you could be on holiday somewhere, and you have the app downloaded on your phone, and you're notified that, oh, there's been a bomb in, and you're in close proximity to it. The last thing you want to do is head towards there, because you
Well,
didn't know that it was there.
I was going
Um,
to say also, I mean, on that topic, like if we saw, was that about a bit just over a month ago, all of a sudden martial law broke out in South Korea, which again is a very
yeah,
established nation,
yeah,
not a place where you'd feel particularly unsafe in that sense. But
yeah.
then, yeah, things can happen, and you got to
Even
be,
weather, even things like weather, you could be on holiday somewhere and there's a tropical storm coming
yeah,
in, cyclone,
yeah,
or, and you're just about to take a boat back to your home. And, now it's a question of, is it safe enough to take a boat back home? Should I just stay where I am? Right.
yeah.
So there's lots of things that we try to do to prevent problems rather than react to problems. And we do that with tech. From how clients buy our policies to how members use our policies, and then how we keep clients prepared as to what may happen in the environment that they're in. So what we have with Do a Circle is we've built, again, under the guidance of Doers, is a product that gives you flexibility. So there are several options that you can choose from in terms of modules. So inpatient is the standard, and then you can add outpatient, you can add dental, you can add maternity. Um, in addition to this, we've made sure that we have the group leaver option. So what differentiates us between a corporate scheme is that when you leave a corporate scheme, unless HR have explicitly requested a group leaver option at the beginning, the likelihood is that you would just be offered an individual plan from the insurance company, which does not always work if you have had treatment for a condition whilst on the group policy. So that's something that we've been very careful about, because of discussions that we've had with Hella and Jamie and the other members of Doers Circle. So I think what we've done, we built a comprehensive, flexible solution, which is not just designed to give you access to the best medical facilities, but it's also there to protect you as and when you're traveling. And one thing that I'd also like to add to that, so we have a host of non-insured benefits that we give to all our clients. So things like lounge access. So all of our members or Do a Circle members will receive lounge access in, I think it's 1,300 airports around the world. We give cyber security, we do telemedicine, mental health. Now, a key differentiator is that if you take out a health insurance policy as an individual, mental health consultations would come under the insurance. Whereas with us, mental health consultations are classed as non-insured benefits. So whether you you had a so just to put that into context, if you had a policy with an insurance company other than the doer's circle policy, and you had several claims for mental health, and you needed to switch to another insurance company, the chances are that the mental health benefit would not cover you because it's seen as a pre-existing condition. But we've built the system, the product with Do a Circle, so that mental health sits outside of the insurance. Mental health, telemedicine. So any consultations that you have with us, if you decide in 12 months' time that you're moving somewhere else and you need another insurance policy, because they've been on insured benefits, you would not need to, they would not be seen as a pre-existing condition with another insurer. So, and therefore it doesn't affect your premiums because it is indeed an uninsured benefit.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that actually. Yeah, there's so many things that can impact whether you get future coverage and things like that as well. And
Hmm.
we can get into that a little bit because I've got a couple of questions prepped, maybe just to kind of warm things up and really just based on probably those who are on the call, but those who I've had conversations with in recent weeks as well. And one of the most common ones that kind of comes up in various forms is I have a local plan. So maybe there's someone in Singapore and they use a local provider, be it like an AIA or something of that nature in that regard. Um, and then why should I um, consider a plan like this in that sense? Like what are the differences? Because I know it's hard to compare exactly like for like. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but like I guess it'd be really good to get your point of view on like what would be the main differences between somebody on one of those kinds of plans versus like an insured nomads plan, for example.
Sure. Good question, actually, because it's something that we come across regularly. Um, so key differences between a local plan, and there are several. I won't go through them all, but I'll give you the key points, which I hope will answer your question. So the first is the benefit limits. Local insurance providers, the benefits, the overall policy limit could be 10 million US dollars, but the sub benefits underneath, so things like doctor's visits, hospital access, they're all very limited. You know, historically, you may have something like a copay, or you may only have, $30 per doctor visit. But for the people in Singapore, you'll know that Singapore private hospitals can be quite expensive. And here in Thailand as well, they're starting to catch up. Um, Thailand has some of the best medical facilities in the world. And historically, it's been cheap. But, over the years, they've started charging more and more and more. So if you were to have a local insurance policy, the chances are if you wanted to go to one of the better hospitals, let's say, you'd have to pay a portion of that bill out of your pocket because the sub benefit on the local plan wouldn't cover you fully for that hospital. Now, one of the things that I'll also mention is with local providers, they can do one of two things. One is they put a cap on room and board. So, for example, they could say, okay, we'll pay room and board up to $50 or $100 a night. And again, to put that into context here, the top hospitals in Bangkok, they can charge anything from 6,000 baht, which is around just under $200. You do get the cheaper ones. You get them mainly the local hospitals around 2,000 baht. But the last thing you want as a patient is being told that one of the hospitals here is the best to deal with your condition, and then realizing that your insurance doesn't cover you fully to go to visit that hospital. So with Insured Nomads, we don't have a limit on room and board. If the room and board's $200, it's paid. If the room and board's $300, it's paid. Obviously, what we're not going to do is pay for a private suite, but if it's a private room and it's equal to, the best private room in that hospital, then we don't set limitations on that. The other key point is that with a local provider, it's great while you're living in that country or, traveling, for holidays overseas. But if you decide in a year or 2 years that you want to leave that country, you then have to start the process again of applying for a new insurance provider. Now, I touched a little bit on pre-existing conditions. So if you have a plan, a local plan, and you've claimed on that plan, and now all of a sudden you're leaving the country, you have to buy a new plan. When you apply for the new plan under the new insurance company, you have to disclose your medical history.
Mm,
And the likelihood is that, for certain conditions, insurers will exclude that condition. They'll either offer you coverage with a loading, or worst is that they would decline the application, meaning that you're sat in a new country without any insurance because no one will touch you because of your medical history. So it makes sense when you're buying insurance to buy an insurance that is portable, that is global, that can move with you if you decide that you've had enough of Singapore or Cambodia or Thailand even, and wherever you go, you can continue with that cover if you need to.
mm,
Um, so those are the key um, differences. And one thing that I'll and obviously because there are these limitations and caps on certain benefits, the price is very different. You know, Local insurance is built for the local market. International insurance is built for people that live overseas and travel or are based in a country overseas. So um, pricing is very different, and there's a very good reason for it because the benefits are richer with international providers. They're giving you the portability that you need, rather than being country specific. They're providing you coverage in a region, could be in your local region, Asia, or it could be worldwide or worldwide excluding the USA. So,
yeah.
and those are the key reasons.
I got a couple of, I didn't want to interrupt your flow, so I had a couple of like, I don't know, let's say verging on jargon that would be good to just clarify
Mm,
that you mentioned just then. So one of them you said was like sub benefits. Could you just
yes.
clarify a little bit what you mean by that? I think I know, but just to make sure
Yeah.
everyone else is aware.
No problem. So, if you look at an insurance policy, there'll be a policy limit at the top, and it could be 1 million US dollars. And then underneath that policy, there'll be a whole host of benefits. So things like surgery, doctor's visits, hospital visits. I mentioned one earlier, room and board. So that would be just because the overall policy limit is 1 million, it doesn't mean that you can use or pay for a room that's going to cost you 500,000. There may be a cap on room and board. So when I say sub benefits, what I mean is the benefits that sit under the overall policy limit. And they range from, intensive care. So one of the key things here in Thailand that I've noticed is with the local insurers here that they will only offer intensive care cover for 15 days. And it's
Oh,
capped at X amount, a monetary value per day. So the question then is what happens after the 15 days?
yeah,
What do I do?
yeah,
Do I have to pay or is that it? They switch off. So, and these are all things, very important questions that you don't realize because you think your policy is 1 million. So,
yeah,
whichever policies you have, you should really look at, the underlying benefits of that plan. So, what the caps are, um, what the room and board, which again is very important, you know.
yeah.
Um,
And we had an example on that one as well, which just wanted to hear your answer as well, just for everyone else, because that is a topic that comes up, and it's a Singapore example for you as well. So the one of the local plans in particular, I think when we looked at it at the detail of it, it covered for $15,000 of hospital treatment. But
mm,
then when you look at this, one of the sub benefits of that, it would be a surgery, like for example, a gastroscopy, which
mm,
is a
mm,
fairly common surgery that people might take. And in that particular policy, it was 20% of the total
mm,
um, of the 15K would be covered. So essentially, they would cover for a maximum of 3K of that amount. And so a gastroscopy in Singapore, it depends where you go, but
yeah,
many of the hospitals you mentioned are private hospitals, fairly expensive, and that could easily cost 4 or 5K on average.
mm,
And so in that instance, what they were saying is that your insurance would cover you for the 3K, but
mm,
then you would be out of pocket by $1 or $2,000 in that example because of that sub
mm,
benefit within the policy. And so I suppose maybe a tip to those who are here with us today
is
and
to
maybe
check.
do have local plans is to have a look at the detail
Mm,
of your policy what are you covered for in particular things. Now, obviously, God forbid it's like more serious things in that sense, the ones that maybe don't happen on a day to day. But even look at the things like what are the types of policies of things that could happen more frequently, and then see, okay, what percentage of that am I covered for? Because it's nice to see on the top of it that you've got, as you said, $1 million, $10 million, and so on. But then when you actually get into that detail, the level below, it might actually be you're only covered for $5,000.
Mm,
So even though it might be 1 million in total across everything,
mm.
but the thing that means something to you, it might only be a few $1,000s. And so that's something I've learned a little bit more looking into the differences between these local and international ones.
Again, that sorry, Jamie. Again,
Yeah,
that's so with the local insurance providers, in Singapore as well, they do it. Here as well, they do it. So they do a per. So you have the policy limit, and then you have a per condition limit. So if you have a conditions, let's just say your policy is $500,000, okay, but then underneath that there'll be uh, a per condition limit. And that per condition limit can be, 20% of the overall policy limit. So let's just say we had a scenario with a local provider here in Thailand. It was a good friend of mine, real life story. And what he didn't know was that there was a per condition limit. So he broke his ankle playing football, and the total bill was around 10,000 US dollars. But the per condition limit on the policy was 2,000 US, or maybe 3,000 US dollars. So that would have meant that if he wanted to continue having surgery in that hospital, he would have had to pay 70% of that bill himself out of his pocket, or choose a local hospital where the pricing's lower and the insurer may be able to cover the bill in full. So it really makes sense, and I can't stress enough that you look at the underlying benefits of your, if you have health insurance at the moment, to look at them. Um, you know, all insurers will have them. Just some are substantially lower than others.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and the other jargon one, before I forget as well, was just to clarify, what does room and board mean, just so that everyone understands that bit. Yeah, because
Sorry. So when you
again,
go to a hospital, they have different categories of rooms. So semi-private room, private room. They can offer you a suite, a penthouse, depending on the top. Yeah, it
yeah, yeah,
happens here in
yeah,
Thailand.
yeah,
It's very common. Um, so room and board is basically the room category, and then the price relative to that room category. So with some
okay,
insurance providers, if you look, they'll give you semi-private rooms. So if you go to a hospital and you stay in a private room, they will pay for a semi-private room, and then you have to pay the rest. All right. Now, just bear in mind that a lot of private hospitals in Asia don't do semi-private rooms, because they make more money from the private room. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
would
yeah,
need to put the bill for the private room. And then additionally, if you went to a hospital and with a local provider, they had a monetary value cap of, let's just say, $100, but the private room was $150, you would again have to put your hand in your pocket and pay $50 for every night that you're kept in that room. So
yeah,
again, it's a very important element of insurance, making sure that, because again, I'll repeat what I said earlier, that the last thing you want is to go to a hospital and realize that your insurance is not going to cover the bill in full, because the benefits and the sub benefits the monetary value of those sub benefits is much lower than the hospital that you want to actually go to.
yeah. No, no, I appreciate that. I
Was
think
that jargon?
no, no, no. It was good. That was good. I hope. I mean, we'll let the audience decide in that sense if they're not sure. But yeah, hopefully that clarified it. I can see there already are a couple of questions
Yep.
flying in as well. So thanks everyone for adding them in. I don't want to just hog all the questions, but that was one that came, quite frequently in chats with people
Mm.
that were looking at this plan as well. I see one from Sachin as well. So I just want to look at his one. I mean, let me know how you want to answer this one. I guess it might be difficult on the fly, but you may be familiar with this because I know you know a lot of the different
Yeah, that's
plans. But he
fine.
mentioned that he said would love to get some differences between the Doer Circle, so I guess Insured Nomads plan, and Cigna's Silver plan, as they look kind of similar. So, I mean, how would you tell me how you want to tackle that? I guess based on,
So
I don't know if you know off the top of your
here's one very important difference which not many people know about. So with insured no, so we have pre and post hospitalization. All right, let me just pull this up to make sure. So one thing that Cigna don't do is Cigna have if it's a silver plan, it's modular. So you have inpatient, you have I think it's $1 million inpatient, $10,000 of outpatient, and then you can add either dental, maternity, and evacuation. Sorry, dental, wellness, and evac. All right, those are the modules that you have. So, which plan do you have, Sachin, if you wouldn't mind? Is it an inpatient? No, 15K outpatient. All right, okay. So now you're okay with that plan because you have outpatient. But one of the things Cigna don't do, which we do, is that for pre and post hospitalization, we will cover the cost of those bills on our inpatient plan. So they're included under inpatient, whereas with Cigna, unless you have outpatient, pre and post hospitalization isn't covered, meaning that if you need preoperative tests, you have to pay out of pocket. But in terms of the similarities, yes, you are right. There are lots of similarities. However, in terms of the benefits, I would say that one of the key differences that you can add dental and maternity to our plan, to the Do a Circle plan, whereas with Cigna, if you want maternity or you need maternity, you need to go for the gold plan. In terms of area of cover, Cigna will offer you worldwide excluding USA. So again, for you guys in Singapore, it will be worldwide. I think you're in Singapore. Are you in Singapore, Sachin? I think so.
Yeah,
Um, it would
it
be
is.
worldwide excluding USA. And yeah, I mean, Cigna are a great company. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. In actual fact, our president is the former Mr. Cigna Global. So he was tasked 40 years ago with growing Cigna brand outside of the US, and he built Cigna to where it is today. But he joined Insured Nomads because he sees a real need for change in our industry. Um, and technology, Cigna are a legacy company. So a lot of the things that they do, they were doing 20 years ago. And, you know, there is no need for change because they are, they've done very well doing it the way that they have. Um, One of the things that I will say is that um, last year, Cigna pulled out of the local business in Thailand, and that kind of left pretty much everyone that had a policy in the lurch because they never gave them an alternative.
Oh,
So yeah, look, great company. I know them well. I think our plans are far more flexible, but Cigna Global are the type of provider that you want to work with because it is portable. You can move around with it. But I actually think our pricing's better and our plans are far more flexible than Cigna, Cigna Silver Plan.
thank you. Great. That's good. We got quite a bunch of questions, so I'll keep firing them in. But Sachin, obviously, feel free to add any more comments as you need to as well.
Mm.
So I'll try and do it in order of when they were asked as well, because there's a few that went in the Q&A and a couple went in the chat. So one of them, it's a kind of a two-part question, I guess, that came from Danny, which says, can the health insurance policy also include family members, even if kids are studying in another country that I'm staying in? I mean, I feel like it's a simple yes, but if you want to maybe elaborate a little bit on that,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
need be.
we can cover yourself, your spouse, partner, dependents as well. Doesn't matter where they are. We can provide cover uh, under the Do a Circle program.
Yeah, and just in case anyone hasn't seen yet, if you go on the landing page, which is doacircle.com/insurance, and I can put it in the chat in a second as well, um, that has a little bit more details about the plan. There's also, you can download the brochure if you want to see what's covered within. But you'll also notice there's a little calculator on the site which helps you work out, okay, what would an estimate look like in terms of if I was to get a plan? And you'll notice that the first age bracket starts at 0 to 17. So technically, you could be a newborn and you could come on, so long as obviously you're connected with the parents in that sense. But children can also join the plan, and they can be covered anywhere they are in the world. And actually, maybe it's just worth just quickly, Mo. I know you mentioned a couple of times about this worldwide excluding the US. I mean, I hope most people realize that the US is kind of a different beast when it comes to insurance, but just maybe just to clarify why that's so different, maybe. But then also there is a there's an emergency exemption in the plan as well, right?
Yeah.
For that.
So insurers price plans based on your residency, your age, and the area of cover. Now, the US, as Jamie just mentioned, is a different beast. I mean, you know, the cost of medical treatment in the US is substantially higher than anywhere else in the world. So if you require USA cover, then, or if you require elective USA cover, meaning that you would like to choose to have surgery or treatment in the US, then yes, the premiums are exceptionally high. But what we've done with our plans are we have an out of area emergency coverage. So let's just say you had a plan worldwide excluding USA and you were visiting the US for, I think ours is 30 or 45, 42 days. I think it's 30 days. 1 second. I'll just check. So it's 30 days. So out of area emergency coverage, basically, if you're in the US or a country that is outside of your area of cover, you fall over and break your leg, or you're taken seriously ill, or you have a heart attack, or you or a member of your family or kids, we would cover you for that emergency. All right. So just to and I know Jamie, you're going to mention jargon. So elective treatment and non-elective treatment.
Ding ding.
Right. I'm gonna explain the difference. So
Yeah.
elective is where you can choose to go and see a doctor or to have treatment in a particular country. Non-elective treatment is for emergencies, so accidents and emergencies, health issues. So by having elective US treatment, so being able to choose to have treatment in the US, you would need to have a worldwide, including the USA policy. But if you're happy with a policy that just covers you in the USA for emergencies or accidents while you're there, then a worldwide excluding USA policy is enough.
Okay. No,
And
that's good. Yeah, and I know that I've had that question come up a couple of times around elective, non elective things like that as well. And like when we were sort of having those conversations as well, I know one of the other phrases is that if it's not medically necessary as well is a good
correct.
way to describe it. So it could be something. And I think this is sometimes this becomes a bit of a personal debate because, if somebody, for example, has like a mole on their face and it might be something that really bothers them, right? They might be very self-conscious about it, but it's non-cancerous or anything like that. It's not of concern to a doctor, then you requesting it to be removed would be elective rather than non-elective in that sense. So, it's not medically necessary. But then I guess in the instance that maybe a doctor did suspect that it had grown and it was something of concern, that could then become medically necessary, right?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, it could be like the terminology there, you're right, is I don't want to get people confused between electing to choose to have surgery in a country rather than. So what you're
Mm,
actually talking about there, Jamie, is cosmetic surgery.
yeah,
So if it wasn't medically necessary, it would be seen as cosmetic surgery because it's just to make you look better, right? Or to make you feel better. But if a doctor looked at the mole and said that it could create problems in, 3 months or 4 months, and it's better to remove it now, then that becomes medically
yeah,
necessary. But if you wake up one morning and say, "Oh, I've got that mole on my face, I want to go and take it off,"
yeah.
without any medical need, then yeah, that then typically would not be covered. One thing I also want to mention just quickly on area of cover. So
Mm,
what we've done with, I noticed we've got quite a few in Southeast Asia as well. What we did with Do a Circle, so we've actually provided, I think it's 3 areas of cover. And one of those is Southeast Asia, excluding Singapore. And the
yeah,
pricing difference between Southeast Asia and Singapore, there's a difference. So for those of you that are in Southeast Asia, you would not need a worldwide excluding USA unless you want to have worldwide excluding USA because you have a doctor in Singapore that you want to continue seeing. Um, I always say that, I live in Asia, that we have some of the best hospitals in the world here in Thailand, and therefore I don't need cover in the UK. I don't need to fly to Singapore for treatment. Southeast Asia for me is fine because I can get some of the best treatment in the world here. So, and that actually controls the cost for you as well.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And actually, I kind of had just an extra question on that. I don't want to interrupt too much on there are other ones here as well, but one of the other plans also has a few more exclusions. It's like UK, Brazil, Israel, US, and things like that. Is there any reason why it's those particular markets? Is that because they have slightly more complex local structures or something? Is that
No, that's a really good question, actually, Jamie.
yeah.
So if you look at the countries, you've got the USA, and I'm going to ask a question to everyone and see if they know the answer. So the USA, Hong Kong, China, Israel, Singapore, Switzerland, the UK, and Brazil. So take a step back and think. I'm not sure how much everyone knows about Medicare in those countries, but take a step back and think why we've excluded those countries from one particular area of cover, or what is the common denominator amongst all of those countries. So just repeat again: USA, Hong Kong, China, Israel, Singapore, Switzerland, the UK, and Brazil.
I think I have an idea, but maybe let's see who's going to win a cookie by putting it in the
Yeah.
chat.
Anyone? Does anyone know?
Michael says
Close.
expensive emergency rooms. That's probably true as well, to be fair, but is that the
Close.
answer?
It's close. You're on the right track, Michael.
My guess just is it public versus private? Because I'm thinking of the UK, right? I grew up in the UK, and a lot of people would use the NHS, for example, but some people would be on a private plan.
No,
Oh, there you go. I don't get a cookie. Someone else is up for
no
grabs.
cookie for you today. Next time, anyone else? Okay, so all of those countries are seen as, oh, legal environment. No, no, no. So all of those countries are seen as high cost countries. So the
Okay.
cost of treatment in China, has gone through the roof. Hong Kong, insurers are actually pulling out of Hong Kong because of the cost of treatment. And this is not the insurance company's fault. This is the hospital providers, which is another subject that I'm very passionate about. As a policyholder with insurance companies, everybody blames the insurance companies when their policy price or premium increases at the end of the year. But it's actually the hospitals that are driving these increases because they're increasing their charges. So no, corruption's not. They're all high cost countries. So the USA, very extremely high cost. China, extremely high cost. Hong Kong, extremely high cost. Singapore, extremely high cost, and Switzerland. And the UK, the reason the UK's in there is because you could go to a hospital in London um, and see a doctor, and they would charge you £500 for a 30-minute consultation. You walk around the corner to another hospital, and they would charge you £250. So, so what we've done, this area of cover excludes all of the high cost countries, which again controls cost. If you're living Asia, do you need to go and see a doctor in Hong Kong? Probably not. China? Probably not. Israel? Singapore, okay, if you're in Singapore, then this wouldn't be a suitable area of cover for you.
Yeah.
So that's why. So what we've tried to do is rather than give you something that you're not going to need or unlikely to use, we've removed those high cost countries out, which again brings the premiums down for members that live in Thailand or Cambodia, for example.
Great stuff. Thank you. I got a few more questions, and we'll try and whiz through them. So we got one from John in the chat about policy underwriting. So I think it's a good point to maybe to elaborate a little bit more because I think people are aware that there is a connection with Allianz as well through this program. So John's question says, will we have any direct confirmation from Allianz that we're covered? So how would you answer that one?
So when one of you become a member, you're issued with a policy document, so with the policy wording and policy brochure, if you like, and you're also given a certificate of insurance. On the certificate of insurance, it explicitly mentions as Allianz as the insurance carrier. So whilst Allianz are the insurance carrier, we are the distributor and the owner of the policy, if you like, and therefore there is no direct communication with Allianz. But if you require or you'd feel more comfortable with Allianz, with a conversation maybe with Allianz or confirmation from Allianz, we can arrange it. It's not an issue. Um, with Allianz partners, they prefer to work in the background and let their partners get on with the business. But if it comes down to verification from Allianz, that's something that we'd be more than happy to do. It's not an issue.
Great, thanks. Hopefully that helps your question, John. Okay, so we have more questions in the Q&A. So one of them, I think this is an important topic, so it's good that we've got some time to get into this as well, is about pre-existing conditions. So this one says, can you speak to coverage for pre-existing conditions? They put in brackets like potentially something like cancer, remission, HIV, pacemaker, that type of thing. I know just to tee up the question as well, like we spoke to somebody only last week who has had an ankle injury, so nothing particularly major,
Mm.
but they are still getting some scans and things like that for it, and then they're now facing a roadblock where their insurer says that's a pre-existing condition, we can't cover you for that, and that's giving them a lot of stress. So yeah, it'd be good to talk a little bit more, I guess, about this particular plan and how it works from a maybe MHD, that kind of thing.
Hello, anonymous attendee. Thank you for the question. So the simple answer to the question is yes, we will. Oh, sorry, I've just lost that question now. I've gone down
Oh,
to.
sorry, it's because I put it as
All right.
answered. It's in the
So,
answered bit.
so,
Yeah, you see it, sorry.
so the simple answer to the question is yes, we do. And that's mainly because of the way that we've set the policy up with Doers Circle. So if you were to go to another insurance company, then those conditions would likely be excluded. Now, the remission question is a very broad question because you could have been in remission for the last 5 years, right? Or you could have just started remission. So more information, I think, is the best way. But the simple answer is yes, because of the way that we've set up the policy, we can cover those conditions.
Great. We did have another question from Yenling. Unfortunately, she just had to jump off, but it'd be good to answer
Yeah.
it because I'm going to give her the recording afterwards as
Yeah.
well. So it said, my husband and I have been struggling to find a plan where we occasionally join water sports competitions for fun. There's usually a prize, though we don't intend to win. Most insurances don't cover it. So I suppose shrinking down the question into like any like active sports, things like that. Does it cover for those sorts of things, or is
So
it not cover for this?
here's the key word in what the question that she's asked there: water sports competitions for fun.
Okay,
Fun being the key word. All right. So if it's a
like leisure.
professional sport, no.
Okay.
Right? No insurance. It would be a standalone insurance policy that you would need to buy to cover any professional sports. But if it is for fun, it doesn't matter if it's competition, a fun competition, as long as it's not a professional sport, then yes, we will cover.
Awesome. Okay, I'll share that with her afterwards. So there was a follow-up question, I think, when we talked about the topic about maternity and a newborn. This has come up a couple of times, and actually there is also another question around complications of maternity. So maybe we just spend a couple of minutes just talking a little bit about the maternity rider that can be added to this plan, like, and what is and isn't covered within that.
No problem. So we have 10,000 US dollar limit on maternity. So it's a maternity module that you can add to your standard inpatient or inpatient and outpatient plans. The $10,000 covers you for the delivery and any complications. So we pay 100% for, let me just check 1 second, complications. Complications of pregnancy. So complications of pregnancy and maternity. So here's another difference between us. So our complications of pregnancy and maternity are in our inpatient plan. All right. Now, so in our inpatient module or in your inpatient module. Should I say our or yours, Jamie?
Okay.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. All right. So I'm so used to saying ours. So with a lot of insurance companies, when you take out the maternity module, The complications of maternity will be the equivalent of the overall maternity module limit. So, for example, our maternity module limit is 10,000 US dollars. Now, with a lot of insurance providers, if you had a complication, that would be included in that $10,000 limit. But with our plan, and this is quite unique in the industry, is that if you have a complication of maternity, it would come out of the inpatient benefit, all right? And the delivery would come in the maternity benefit, all right? Meaning
Okay.
that you would have more than enough. Now, I mentioned Hong Kong and China earlier. One of the big issues facing insurers in Hong Kong are maternity benefits because the complications of maternity can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's where, Hong Kong has become, significantly more expensive. So complications of maternity are covered up to 100% on the inpatient module, and the delivery, it's C-section or, sorry, I've forgotten, natural birth,
Yeah.
um, is under the maternity package.
Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Uh,
And
One
and
last
and
one
yeah, there
last
was a
thing,
bit about the
newborns.
newborn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we ask is that again, I'm going to give you the differences between the two. Usually with insurers that when you have a baby, you have between 14 and 30 days to add the baby. And if you add the child between 14 and 30 days, there's no medical underwriting, and you can add, excuse me, you can add the baby, even if the baby's in intensive care. Some insurers will ask you to fill out a medical declaration and make sure the baby's healthy before they allow you to add. But with our plan, you can add the baby, as and when you need to. Obviously, it's always in your best interest that you add the baby as early as possible because, if there are any health issues, it's covered under the policy. So,
Yeah, and they would be added, they would have their own inpatient plan, right? For the baby
correct.
at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So,
And then
so
they would
both,
also have their own inpatient
uh,
coverage from that plan, right?
and that's also um, a very important differentiator, Jamie, and I think we should spend time on that. So, with insurance policies, if you're a policyholder and you have newborn cover, the baby will be covered from birth under your policy. All right. So, but just for newborn cover, not for any tests or vaccinations or anything else. If the baby needs some treatment while just after she's been born, that would be covered under newborn cover up to your
Yeah.
maternity limit or sublimit. However, once you add the baby to your policy or create a new policy for the baby, so she becomes a policy holder together with you under a family policy or a parent's policy, she then has her own, he or she then has their own benefits for which you can claim it.
You got you. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because that question did come up this week, but hopefully that answers both Ian's question and our anonymous questioner as well. A couple of anonymous. It's okay,
I'm not
no
I'm
problem.
not sure what edge cases
Maybe, yeah,
edge
if you want to clarify what an edge case for maternity might be, we can try to answer that as well. Just mark that one as well. And then in the meantime, while maybe that person wants to add if there was a particular edge case, are there any other questions we've got? Because we're getting close to time. Um,
it's flown by.
yeah, it has actually, yeah. And I was going to say, like, to those on the chat, if there's, I appreciate we're kind of covering quite a lot of detail. If you want to take time to absorb that, and of course we'll share the recording with you too. But you have more questions, we can set up a chat, can pop us a note via email or WhatsApp or something like that as well. Or we can do a second session as well. We can do like kind of follow up if there's certain things that people are interested in, because we know it is a big topic and we're just trying to really help shed some more light because we know it is, yeah, it's very complicated. I mean, I've been exposed to so many conversations in the last few months that now I feel I understand it more, but not everyone has that fortune, I guess, to have that many conversations. So yeah, we know it's a tough topic.
I
We
know.
have a question. Did you see it,
I'll
Mo?
just add to that, Jamie. If you need any help, you want somebody, I'm available for you guys to help.
Yeah. So actually, a couple of questions came in. Tashin said, "Can I assure my parents if my parents don't have the same country of residence?"
Yeah,
Yes, right. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. That's yes.
ideally, if they're in the same region, then it doesn't make much difference. But if one of them's in Asia and one's in Europe, then the best case scenario would be to take two separate policies,
Yeah, fair
because
enough.
then you can have two different areas of cover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you can do that session as well. Oh, we did get the edge cases bit in there, but just I can see there's one that's definitely a yes no answer. I think I know the answer already, but John has
yeah,
also asked, is it possible to just get outpatient, i.e., no inpatient? And it's no, right?
no. So
Yeah,
unfortunately not. And the reason for that is that the inpatient uh, portion, the inpatient module is the basic module, if you like. Outpatient, if we were just allowed to clients just to buy the outpatient module, we know for sure that they're taking it just because they have doctor's appointments that they want to claim for. So simple answer is no.
So our attendee also said, so the edge cases being NICU and room expenses post delivery in case there are complications.
All covered. Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
all covered.
nice quick answer that one. And
It's
then
quite a
Bran,
common
oh,
it's
sorry.
it's quite a common occurrence for newborns in Asia. We my son was in an ICU, and then he also
Yeah,
needed UV because he had some jaundice. So all of that's covered. It's nice
yeah,
walking into the hospital after your child's born and knowing that the insurance policy has covered all of your bills,
yeah,
Um,
yeah. You're right. You're right. Yeah, I got surprised with that one in Singapore. We were lucky in Hong Kong, so my wife's Hong Kong Chinese, and we went to one of the local hospitals, and I paid the bill on my Octopus card. If anyone knows what the Octopus card is, it's
yeah.
it's like it's
Mm,
basically the card you would get on the train with as well, and just tap in, or maybe in a 7-Eleven or something. So to be able to do that there was great. But yeah, it's another story in Singapore in that sense. So yeah, it's good
mm.
to get that clarified. So there's another question here said from Brandon saying, how easy is the sign up process for like new business owners? So I guess if you do have a team of say 5, 10 people, for example, or maybe even a few people, what's the steps to signing up usually?
Do you want to answer that, Jamie?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So just keep me on your toes. But yeah, for any businesses that want to sign up, usually what we would do is we would first work out, okay, what is the estimate across the team? So we look at things like where you're based. So as Mo mentioned, where you're based makes a difference in what the estimate would be. What's the age bracket, and then what do you want cover for? If you want inpatient only, or if you want to add dental, maternity, outpatient, for example. And then once we've got that estimate and you're kind of happy with that, then then we create a link for you to process that payment. And then there's only a small bit of onboarding, which is to get like your contact information, because that creates your account with Insured Nomads. And as Mo mentioned earlier, because the plan operates on what's called a medical history disregarded. So there's not like those sort of 20 questions of what's your previous conditions and all these types of things. Like all of that gets skipped through. And so yeah, from a business owner's point of view, it should be quite quick. We can do it, yeah, probably in like a couple of days basically. And then once you choose a start date, then it's you need to make sure obviously that that date is either a few days ahead of that. It takes the team a couple of days to set things up, right, Mo, from your side?
Yeah, I mean, look, we ask for very. I mean, once we know what plan or how many modules you'd like to include, it's actually very straightforward. We just need the name, nationality, location, age, or date of birth, and then your email and contact number. And the reason we require the email and contact number is so that we can register you on the app and provide you with access to the client dashboard. And then also for telemedicine for verification. So we need a telephone number so that when you call telemedicine, you have verified or they're able to verify your information based on the details that you've given us. One thing I'll also point out is there's a local Singapore number for Do a Circle, right?
Yes, there is.
So you're not making international calls, you're actually calling a local number in Singapore, and that's getting routed to our assistance team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, if people were interested in what the kind of like, the onboarding, the claims process, things like that is, they can let us know,
Yeah.
and we're happy to go into a bit of detail on that. But I mean, for full transparency, I'm also a member of that plan now, and I found the onboarding to be very straightforward. You've got access to a platform. I can download my certificate of insurance, so I can see that information, like what John was asking about earlier, for example. That information is available to you. You can start a claim process through there as well, or I think you can email the team is another option. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And I activated my priority pass, so next time I go to the airport, I will be definitely using the lounges for that, which is great. So yeah, it's good to see that all those things are all in the platform.
One of the reasons we include that, Jamie, is that, we do travel insurance as well. And, if your flight's delayed at the airport, are you like, unless it's a really long delay, are you going to claim from the insurance company? Probably not. But if your
That's true,
flight's
yeah.
delayed by 2 hours and you're sat in the airport and we've given you lounge access, you're probably more likely to appreciate the lounge access rather than, having to get on the phone and call your insurance company to claim $200 back, right? So
Yeah,
that's one of the main reasons why. And, for health insurance, you don't need your flight doesn't need to be delayed. You go to the I was going to say hospital. You go to the airport and as long as they've got space in the lounge, you're in.
yeah, yeah, that's good.
Mm.
Okay, I think we've hit time actually. This has been good. There's a lot of questions, so thanks everyone also for your questions. Oh, I do see one more. Like I don't know if we can answer it if it's a
Yeah,
quick one.
go on.
So someone said for new businesses, do all employees have to sign up, or can only some sign up, for example,
Where did that come from? I didn't
in the
see.
Q&A? But yeah, I just saw that. Sorry, just my apologies for missing that one.
Open. Oh. Simple answer, yes, some employees can join if they wish to, and some don't have to, or they can join at a later date.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that helps your question. Yeah, but thanks everyone, and thanks in particular to Mo for your contribution. I really appreciate that. Please do let us know afterwards as well. You can go on the site which I put in the chat earlier, do a circle/insurance. You can get an estimate on there, or alternatively, if you want to just pop me an email, it's jamie@doacircle.com. And if you want, we can chat on WhatsApp or something like that. If you want to get some more questions, we can do a one-on-one. I'm sure I would be happy
Yeah,
to to share his wisdom on that side of things as well. Oh, Sachin, sorry, you said the website again. Yeah, there you go. But I'm mindful I've
to
gone over
help.
time here. So
Um, I hope you all enjoyed the discussion. I have a good
yeah,
indication of enjoying a chat is how fast time goes, and it's an hour already over, just over an hour. So
yeah,
really appreciate everyone's questions. I think there were lots of good questions. And if you see that there's any benefit for your companies or for your employees, maybe Jamie and I can arrange a time and we can do, some individual Q&As with your own businesses, which may help people make a decision or get answers to the questions that they've not really been sure about.
yeah, and that's a fair point actually, because I know I said at the beginning this is a quite can be quite a personal topic. So sometimes you might not want to talk in a group setting about something that's bothering you. So please,
Mm,
feel free
mm.
to let us know separately. That's fine. But yeah, do appreciate it. I think some really good questions. Hopefully, it helps add some value. Some tips on what to look out for in your own plans. And yeah, we'll definitely do another one soon. So yeah, thanks again, Mo. Have a great
Welcome.
rest of
Have
the
a good
afternoon.
day and happy doing for all the
Yep.
doers.
Thanks very
Take
much.
care. Have
Cheers,
fun.
man.
Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye, everyone.